Hello, everybody, and welcome to our 100th episode of the Bikini and the Brain podcast. My name is Ashley Kaltwasser, and I'm here with my co-host, Adam Bonilla from Team Elite Physique. And holy moly, 100 episodes.
100.
That's a lot of talking.
It's crazy, right?
That's a lot of
It's crazy. It's 100 hours of talking.
That's
like
80 hours of Adam talking, 20 hours of Ashley talking.
Probably, depending on the question. And only,
Depending on the question.
And only one episode of you crying.
Oh, yes! Good times, good times.
That's great.
Gosh.
We're going to average one per 100. So we do almost one a week, almost every week.
Yes.
So it's about 2 years, a little over 2 years, I think, because we've missed a few weeks here and there.
Yes.
Yeah, so, yeah.
Wow.
It's crazy. Yeah,
I never thought we would do this many.
I know, right? It's been, so thank you guys a lot for listening. We're averaging a little over 20,000 downloads per episode on all the streams. So over 2 million listens, I guess you'd say, which is kind of nuts to think about. That's a lot of time.
Yeah.
2 million hours probably,
Holy
or whatever
moly.
that is. So, but anyway, you guys, thank you guys for sticking along with us. If you've been watching, if you've been, hopefully, if you're just here, hopefully we're giving you some good. And I think that, when we started this podcast, the point of it was to kind of like, one, have fun. And then the other thing was to expose fitness at the high level at physique competition for what it really is, and that anyone can do it, and that it's hard, but it doesn't need to be miserable. And I think that was a big thing for both of us, was all this stuff you see on social media is everyone's always talking about how terrible it is, a badge of honor of how hard I'm working and how much I'm suffering, and I'm like, it doesn't need to be so gloomy, It could be. So, and so hopefully you guys see, a lot of people, even Ashley, doing super, super high level stuff. She's eating over 1,200 calories when she's prepping. She's, not doing 2 hours of cardio a day. She's living life and can do this maintainably.
Yes.
So, but anyway, it's been kind of fun.
It has been.
Do you
remember when we used to do the podcast before we have this super professional setup with this brick wall?
Yeah.
We used to film these podcast episodes on potatoes,
Yeah, that's right. One of our episodes, I feel so bad too because it's a J.M. Mannion episode, and it's I was like, oh, we wouldn't really care that much. We just needed sound, and then we started using video, and I bought this cheap Walmart computer for that weekend.
Oh.
It was the worst recording thing ever, and it looked like a 1980s camera. It's with JM too. That was our first good recording audio too.
Yeah.
What's really funny too is the episode with him. I was still learning the technology, and we only used that recorder for two episodes, and then I realized that I had it set up for 2 mics, so JM didn't even have his mic on the whole time. Yeah, so luckily his sound was coming in on mine.
Yeah.
But I was and I got done with it and I freaked out. I didn't tell you, I freaked out. I was like, JM's mic wasn't on. He's gonna kill me. But then I was like, oh no, I could recover the sound. So luckily I got it. But I was major panic mode that whole weekend because I didn't know what to do. And we just had it in Tahoe. And that's actually a year ago today, or a year ago now, because we're going to Tahoe this weekend.
That's so crazy. Well, we've come a long way, that's for sure, from doing it in my apartment in Hollywood, and then we were doing some we were also doing some in your older house too, on a laptop, and now we got this nice camera with this backdrop at the Contest Prep Center. Super legit. Yeah. Super legit. Up in here.
Yeah, it does sound less, right? We had our Hollywood studio.
Oh gosh, yes.
Your kitchen.
Yeah, the sound's definitely improved.
Yeah,
a lot
sound's
less
improved.
Echoey. I like this room for the sound.
Yeah.
You can't get any better than this, really.
So it's been pretty cool. We've had tons and tons of questions throughout the episodes. What's funny is I know that eventually, if we do this long enough, that the stuff I said when we first started is going to change, because it always does. So I'm kind of curious. What's funny is I want to go back and see some of those episodes and what I was doing then.
Yeah.
Because now my peak weeks are different again. It's always evolving, and
improving.
Evolving, and you feel like you get an edge when you try something, and then sometimes it doesn't. You go back to it, and it's it's kind of fun. So I know that my old videos, I have some on YouTube for 10 years old, and I'm like, oh, I wouldn't do that at all anymore.
I'm telling you, we need to do a react to our old videos thing.
Yeah. Well, there was
fun.
Well, what's funny is some of them I actually took down because they were wrong, and I was like, then I thought it was right.
Yeah.
You know, because I used to go into like stuff like tempo of exercise.
Yeah.
Really crazy. I used to go into tempo exercise stuff. And then as more stuff came out about tempo, they're like, yeah, it's not as important as we thought. So like I had to like take it down because I used to be all about it, but it's just so crazy how it's always evolving. So how the questions that come in, we'll answer them, and a year later they're going to be different, you know?
Right. And
so,
then somebody brings it up to you, but you said this and this.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So you just got to always be current on the information, you know? For anybody listening, it's always good to stay up on things too, you know? But it's like, I think one of the most important qualities of somebody that's, you know, higher level, such as yourself, is the willingness to accept like new protocols, you know, and be willing to learn and be like, okay, this could have been better or whatever. You know, I think that's good to not be stubborn and being stuck in the old ways, you know?
Yeah. And I think that's the same with, you know, I had a friend that was like an engineer, and he was telling me that he's always studying because it's just always evolving. He's like, yeah, he goes, half the time you're studying and half the time you're working. He goes, like, you're just nonstop educating yourself because everything's evolving so rapidly with technology. I was like, that's kind of the same with prep. Like, you're half the time you're doing check-ins and updates to plans, and the other half the time you're trying to figure out like what's new, what you need to be looking at, what is changing in the posing, what's changing in peak weeks, what that coach is doing, how's he getting that result. And so it's like it's always something, and you're just always learning, which is really cool because like the podcast too has been helped me to reach more people. Mm-hmm. And what's really cool is my network of coaches has gotten better over the last few years too. Mm-hmm. Used to be just me in my office and like just by myself 100% of the time, which was great, but it's very it's hard to learn more that way, you know. Mm-hmm. You're researching studies and whatnot, but when you get to talk to people and go to dinner with coaches and this and that, you know, I've made some good friends with them. And they have a lot of us will have a lot of different opinions too about different things because what's worked, like you just kind of get guided by what works throughout the years. Right. And what worked, you know, he might have taken a different fork, it's getting a different result or a better result for him, which I've never tried or I've done, it didn't work for me. So we just go these different ways. And you get to like talk to each other and you kind of come up with some similar solutions. And then when he's having an issue with his girl, I can kind of talk about it. When they're having an issue with one of mine, what do you think about this? You know, so you just get better and better, and it's really fun. It's a really fun thing to learn, like to practice getting better. Yeah. And I think that if you're good at anything, you should realize that the more you learn, the less you know. You know, it's like the more you learn, you're like, damn, there's so much more that I have to go. Like I just such a baby in this whole thing, you know. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of fun too. Yeah. But anyway, what have you got? We should go into like what's your favorite thing about the podcast since you've been doing it so long now?
My favorite thing about the podcast is I feel like people resonate with it more than, let's say, like a 30-second Instagram video, right? Yeah. So Instagram's great, it's fun, you can watch pictures or watch little videos, double tap pictures, you know. But as far as like getting to know someone or getting the knowledge that our podcast would provide or motivation, I feel like with the podcast, since it's a longer form and it's more casual, we're just like talking like, you know, friends or whatever, I think it's more insightful to people and people like it a lot better. So I think that's kind of cool. And I'll be honest, like out of all my social medias, YouTube, Instagram, podcast, people seem to like the podcast the most. Or I get like, I guess people come up to me at shows and be like, oh, I love your podcast. I love this episode for this and this. I get that the most out of all my social medias, followed by YouTube, followed by Instagram, which is funny because on Instagram I got the biggest following, but probably not as much of a connection, right? So yeah. I feel like with this podcast, it's like you can connect with people a lot better because it's just like we're having a conversation and you guys are listening in on it. So yeah. I don't know, I like that aspect of it.
Yeah, me too. And then when people do like get started with one of us as the coaches or whatever, like they actually have a really good understanding of what's to expect already too, which is helpful. Yeah. It's kind of like a preview of what you would get, you know? Yeah. Like it's kind of nice too. And it's just
definitely more helpful, right?
It's a fun way to educate too. And what's really cool too, that's like an indirect benefit of it that I didn't realize would happen is the coaches all listen to it too. So we have, you know, at the prep center, we have 13 coaches here that all help our clients. And they listen to it, and then they're staying up and current with it too. It's like a free training I get to give them too with it, which is really fun. My favorite thing about it so far has been like the reach for sure. Yeah. Like just the people that come up to you and they already kind of know you and they know your story, and they'll be like, yeah, I listen, and they'll talk about episodes, and I think that that's really cool that people invest their time in that. So I appreciate you guys doing that.
It is kind of cool. Just think about like how many people that you're maybe changing their mood or their way of thinking, or motivating them or inspiring them to get started or to live a healthier lifestyle. I think that's kind of cool.
Yeah, and it's been really nice to get to know you with it more too, because we get to spend an hour a week just talking, which is, me and you are so fast paced that we don't just like spend an hour talking. Even when you like lived at my house and I lived at yours, like we didn't like really talk that much. We'd work out, talk for a little bit, maybe go to a store, but it wasn't like these long, in-depth conversations, So it's been kind of fun there too. But whatever you guys want to see, the direction you guys want to see us travel, let us know in the comments, and we can definitely always take that into account. I get a lot of suggestions throughout the weeks, and they help because we have a ton of episodes, so it's hard to like always come up with new topics, which is Ashley's got a really good at it, but we've read it.
We had 100 topics so far. What?
I know.
That's a lot.
Yeah. So this week, you know what? One other thing too I want to talk about too, which I think is important because it was big in our industry. John Meadows passed away.
Yeah.
I know, right? So if you guys don't know John Meadows, you should look up his YouTube, Mountain Dog. He was cool in like many, many ways, but one of his main thing was like, be authentic. Don't try to be this YouTube personality. Don't try to fake it, because eventually it's going to come out anyway. And people should be able to get to know you through your YouTubes and your this and your that. And I feel like that's, he's right, because there's a lot of like fake people on like YouTube that like play a character type of thing.
Yeah.
Which is fine. They're doing it to make money. There's nothing wrong with that. It's a character. But like with him, he's like, I'm just going to be my authentic self. The most important thing to me first is family. Like he's very out there about it. He had all these like rules. One was like, don't lose a relationship over prep. Save some calories for a meal. Like he's just a really good guy, really good for the industry. And he was actually a lot of motivating for a lot of like the on the business side of things for people too, because he was one of the only guys in America to get on the Forbes list to make $1 million a year without any W-2 employees. So he was like one of the there's like, I don't know, it might have been 100 or maybe it was 1,000. It was a low number of people who made $1 million who didn't have like full staff type of thing. And so he like paved ways for us and everyone in ways that like no one really thought possible. Mm-hmm. Like he was on the Forbes list, which is crazy, right? That's like, you gotta be like super rich to be on the Forbes list. So like in our industry, it shows to some of these guys like, hey, I can make it too. I gave them something. So rest in peace to Mr. Meadows. I met him just once. I wasn't, I didn't have it wasn't a trainer I always communicated with. I wish I was, but it just never happened. But a really awesome guy for our sport. So if you haven't seen his stuff, go to Mountain Dog, and I think it's Mountain Dog on YouTube, John Meadows. And still a ton of, obviously there's hundreds and hundreds of good videos, huge following. There's people that are going to try to carry on his Mountain Dog. So hopefully that doesn't disappear. So, it looks like, Rich Piana's stuff is still around too. So
yeah, he's still very relevant,
Yeah.
Even though he's not here with us. That's crazy to think. What a legacy.
Yeah. I think that he'll be around for a while too. So hopefully he does. So, anyway, Ashley had an idea, and I thought it was a great idea. So usually it's Ashley's ideas of recording, of you guys sending in questions and make this episode like a Q&A episode. And they're sending in video questions. So
we get to highlight our awesome listeners.
Yes.
Rather than so-and-so said, they actually get to be like on screen and everything. So I think that, it's cool because you get to actually hear them ask the questions.
Yeah.
Rather than it just being typed and then repeated. So I just thought that would be kind of cool. So all of our listeners got the chance to kind of submit videos. I will admit there were a few videos that were submitted that I saved, but for some reason the sound didn't save and I feel horrible about it. I'm so sorry. So if you sent a video and I responded to it and it's not listed, it's probably because it for some reason saved without the sound. And I'm disappointed in myself.
Well, we couldn't answer all of them anyways.
Yes, that's true.
But we're going to give you guys hopefully some good answers on these questions and go from here. So should I start
Go ahead.
this one?
Let's start it.
Okay.
Hey, Coach Adam and Ashley. This is Ashley Manzano from Dubuque, Iowa. My question for your 100th episode is this. So on the days where you're really just struggling to get that glute activation and really feel the contraction, like on pretty much every exercise, what recommendations do you have to get the glutes firing, whether it be like warm-ups or foam rolling or anything of that nature, just to really kind of get the glutes firing and ready to contract on all of the workouts? Thanks.
Okay. So that's a good question. And I guess we go into it and like, so there's a lot of factors that go into this, and which actually this could be a whole topic on its own, like a whole episode. So I'll go into it as fast as I can because there's a lot. That question is multi-layered. Okay, so there's let's start off with the first part where she's talking about foam rolling to get better activation. We could talk about, so if you look at, this is a really cool example too, and I learned this in school and it always stuck with me. If you look at like the 80s in the Olympics and like track people, they would always stretch like before they would run. They'd always stretch, and you'd see them stretching their quads, doing that like quad stretch. They'd be doing all these little stretches, and they would stretch before they ran. And then all of a sudden, years later in the Olympics, they were not stretching anymore and they were jumping. And we're like, what happened? What was the change between that? Why did all of a sudden stretching before you work out, before you run, become when do they switch to like jumping and things like that? Well, what they realize is when you stretch the muscle, you kind of relax the muscle, okay? And it's not going to activate as well when it's relaxed. So there's this thing called post-activation potentiation. So it is what it sounds like, it's post-activation potential of muscle fibers, right? So muscle firing. So when you go through like an exercise or you do something, basically your potentiation is basically like how much of your muscle fiber is going to contract on any given day based on any circumstance. And a lot of it has to do with like your nervous system being primed and warmed up in the area, and you're obviously the more active it is in that area, the more fired up that nervous system is in that area, you're going to activate at a higher potential. So there's actually a workout that people do specific to potentiation that can help with you recruiting more muscle fibers too. And so there's a lot of different ways, but foam rolling wouldn't be productive to getting them to fire more right after you doing the foam rolling. Maybe after you exercised, you foam rolled and you got better range of motion in the future, then yes, foam rolling is very, very good for you, especially for taking your muscle to farther range of motions and stretching and being healthy and healing the muscle. But before a workout, it wouldn't be ideal because it's going to relax the muscle, so your potentiation is going to be less when the muscle is relaxed and stretched. So there's actually another workout that people do. As you can see, this is could be a really long question. Let's say I have someone with a protracted shoulder girdle, which means that their shoulders are forward, like they're forward and leaning in. A lot of people who work desk jobs have that problem. Well, those people a lot of times have a hard time getting their back to activate because their chest is, because it's rotated forward, their chest is in a semi-flexed position. So it's already contracting a little bit. So because of that, the opposing muscle group has to be stretching. So anytime you do that, so anytime if I flex my bicep, then my tricep is going to be stretched because it's elongated and my bicep is shortened, right? So if my chest is rounded forward, then my back is going to be stretched, which means if I'm going into sets and doing exercises of my back, will my back contract as optimally when my chest is being flexed because it's a position of my posture? No, it won't. So what you could do in a set of back is you can stretch your chest, relax your chest muscle, and then your back will activate a little better too. So you can stretch the opposing muscle groups, okay? So how does that help the glutes? Well, the opposing muscle groups of the glutes is the hip flexors, okay? So if you wanted to really activate your glutes, one of the things you could do is you could stretch your hip flexors. You could stretch them in between sets. You could stretch them before you work out. You could keep stretching them in between sets because a lot of people do have, especially in bikini, have what we call an anterior pelvic tilt. So their back kind of tilts a little bit. Ashley has that too. And so when you tilt a little bit like that, you're stretching the glutes. The glutes are a little stretched, so they're not going to be best for contracting. So if you can relax the hip flexors, you can get better glute activation. And then you can go into potentiation, right? How do I get my nervous system primed? How do I get the highest amount of motor unit activity in my muscle before I go into, let's say, heavier loads? Well, you can go and do a lot of things for it. You can do, even anything that's going to create like activity in that local area is going to get it more active. So even a little bit of cardio before you work out, yeah, it's going to make it more active. Doing things like clamshells with high reps, doing monster walks with high reps. Another good one would be like a Bosu ball, something in an unstable environment where maybe you're doing hip thrusts with your 1 foot on a Bosu ball, and then you're doing hip thrusts that way, just for reps, just to warm it up, because that less stable environment creates you generally will get more activity after that. So your potentiation at its optimal area. So those are a couple of ways you could do it. Obviously, you could do things like use a Newbie New Fit if you have access to that, and that'll help. But that alone should be.
Many people have that.
Yeah, it's hard.
But we do, because we're special and we're awesome.
We do have it, yes. So there are some things that you could do. So stretch opposing muscle groups, monster walks, clamshells, high rep stuff, a little bit of cardio before you work out. Do your first set with high reps and just squeeze and feel the muscle work, right? And then carry on the rest of the sets with working sets, whatever. So then that'll work for any muscle group. And if you're having problems with it, it'll help with any muscle group at least. And the stretching one too, the intraset stretching of opposing muscle groups is a really good way of getting more activity in the other muscle if your posture is not aligned, which most people's not. So there you go. That could be a whole episode. I could do probably a 2-hour thing on that.
That's what's up. Well, we'll have to do that one time if the viewers want to hear that.
The problem is when you start talking like that, it goes over so many people's heads, and it's never fun. And I never want to make it not useful to people. Mm-hmm. And also people try to flex their brain, and I don't think that that's very cute.
Not cute.
It's not cute.
Not
and so,
cute.
No, that's a fun topic, but it's not the most exciting for people to listen to.
Mm-hmm.
So
absolutely. So let's go ahead and get into this next video by Alina Popova. Okay.
Just so you guys know, it's not Alina Papa.
No,
it's someone else.
It's her. Alina Popova.
Okay, really close.
Alina.
Really close to Alina Popova too. I was like, wait a minute, when you first started saying it.
No. Yeah.
She's awesome. Hi, Alina, if you see this.
Ashley and Adam, happy 100th episode anniversary. My question is regarding dieting. When you travel a lot and you don't sleep, what to do when the ghrelin punches you?
So I think she's asking about how to maintain a diet while traveling is what I got out of that.
Yeah, me too.
Okay, so I travel a lot. The key to staying on the diet while traveling is, well, first off, you got to find out if this destination has a fridge. Let's hope to God they do. And something that I always bring with me is my, what is that called? It's a Hot Logic Mini. So it's basically a portable food warmer, right? So that comes in handy. It's basically the size of a standard lunchbox, and you plug it in and you put your container food in there and it'll be warm in 15 minutes. So it doesn't break any of those microwave rules that hotels have. Sometimes they're no microwaves, no hot plates or whatever, because they don't want the hotel to catch on fire. But I bring that with me, and I bring my food frozen, packed with ice. And if it's a scenario where I'm not necessarily close to a show, I might bring additional snacks that don't perish over a period of time. So maybe beef jerky is great option because it's high in protein. Just make sure it's low in sugar. Also things like protein chips, protein bars, things like that. Nuts, little peanut butter packets. I think those are great because that keeps you on track if you're not necessarily prepping. But if you are prepping, you can obviously fit that into your plan. But I'm just assuming if you're really close to a show, you don't want to be doing beef jerky or anything like that, depending. But there are definitely options. I would just say, in general, come prepared. Don't expect food to already be there, easily accessible when you arrive, just come prepared.
Yeah, and I'll give you a couple of tips that I've had over the years too with people. One is, for the most part, let's say you travel somewhere, there's always going to be a Chinese food place. So the Chinese food places tend to be the easiest if it's not, you can't find a mainstream food prep company. But for Chinese food, they will steam chicken. They have no problem with it. They have steamed rice. They have steamed veggies. You could fly in and pretty much there's a Chinese store anywhere, and they just tell them what you're doing. You get a special diet. You want to get steamed chicken, whatever. And that's the easiest way. The other easy way is just going to a grocery store, right when you land, and they always have, what is it called? Roasted chicken? Rotisserie chicken. Rotisserie chicken. That's an easy way of getting quality food. And then things like the individual packets of rice that they have, the individual cups that they have, that makes it easy. But honestly, more times than not, when I'm I'll just go to a Chinese food place, get my rice, And then I just have my meat that I brought or whatever too. It just makes it easy. And I like fresh rice, and it's always cheap and easy and everywhere.
True.
But one of the tricks that I've had from a competitors kind of show me, which is cool, because a lot of these competitors will do like fish towards the end, but the problem is they might be traveling for like 6 hours to get to the show or whatever, and the ice packs will maybe melt or whatever. So one of this girl I used to prep, she showed me this trick, was really cool. 2 tricks actually. One of them was she would get all of her food and put it in like these really small plastic Ziploc bags, like the small ones, and each meat would be in its own one, and she'd just put it in one. And then she'd get one big plastic bag, and then she'd pour water in the big plastic bag and then freeze it. So the tilapia and stuff was like in like a cube of ice. Oh. I know. She's like, well,
interesting.
I know. She's like, it never melts.
Sounds messy though, but
she's like, it never melts. She's like, it never melts by the time I get landed. And then, and I just keep it in there. And then she puts it in the big bag in like a empty trash waste basket when it would melt. And then, so it would melt, and it'd take her a day for her to get her food. Yeah, it was kind of cool. And then the other one was, if you don't have a refrigerator, it was the same trick. If you don't have a refrigerator, just getting the ice from the ice machine and using the trash bucket that they have there with the fresh liner, of course. And then just filling that with ice and putting your food in there.
I don't think it's a trash bucket, though. I think it's a wine cooler.
No, I think she would. Well, I don't know. Yeah.
That little thing that comes with the plastic liners is not
I've
trash.
only seen it with the big one, so maybe it wasn't a trash. I don't know. Maybe it wasn't.
Oh, in every hotel room I go in, it's like a little, it is for ice, though.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know. All right. Well, whatever.
Well, I don't know.
That
Who
thing.
knows?
Whatever. Just put your ice in a bucket.
I think it's kind of gross to do trash.
If there's a liner, right?
Even if there's a liner, you don't know what can penetrate through that. That's kind of gross. I mean, you never know.
It'd have to penetrate through that, through the plastic bag.
I don't know. You
ice.
take your risk, man. I wouldn't be putting
use the bottle thing. This one. Use the bottle thing. I didn't know there was a thing. The ice bucket.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe
you know
that's
what you can also do as well for replacement to, like, if you don't have those ice packs. I do this sometimes. I'll just freeze water bottles, and it's great because once they melt, you get to use it. There's water for you.
Okay, that's cool too.
Because you don't want to take their like $6 water that says that has a tag like, this is $6. Like, you already have some ice cold water when it melts. So that's another option you can do.
Yeah. What was it? And the other thing too, just so you're aware, like, don't worry so much about meal frequency. That's always like the issue with people when they travel too, and like when they work, they're like, oh, I can't be a bodybuilder because I can't eat every 2 hours. And I'm like, you don't need to eat every 2 hours. So if, eat when you're hungry. If you're supposed to eat 5 times a day on your meal plan, and then, you get really busy and you just combine some of those meals and do 3 meals that day, 2 meals that day, it's not going to make a difference. The only time I think it really does make any difference is like just the energy you have when you work out. Like if you haven't eaten and you're starving and it messes up your workout, I think that matters. And I think the post-workout does matter depending on, a lot of factors. Like if you ate the whole day, then I don't think post-workout matters that much. But if you haven't eaten, then post-workout matters a lot because your body needs those nutrients. So depending on, what you ate and digestion times and stuff, those 2 meals I think do matter. So
Absolutely.
Okay, well, let's go to another one.
Hey, Adam and Ashley, and happy peak week. I have one question for Adam and one question for Ashley. To Adam, you explained like a few episodes back about carb loading during peak week and kind of like rehydrating the muscles and getting them to a point where they're full but they don't spill over. I was just curious to know if you could go into a little bit about what goes into that calculation as far as like how many carbs you decide to give somebody, for like a bikini athlete versus a wellness athlete versus, a men's physique athlete or something like that.
Okay, so carb loading with shows is basically the question on how you come up with the calculation. That is, unfortunately, there's really it's one of those unanswerable questions that we just did, right? Because it's very, very person dependent. So let me give you 2 scenarios that like just happened, which are actually really one-off scenarios, and they both resulted in a pro card, which is kind of crazy. Two people, 2 scenarios, similar situations, both got pro cards. So one was Jacqueline, Jacqueline, and she got her pro card at Masters Nationals, and then the other one was Louisa, who just got a pro card at USA's. So with both of them, I had an expectation of how many carbs they should have, which was a lot. It was already like in the 300 reloads like per day type of thing, which is crazy. And now you don't get to 300 unless you have a really fast metabolism. They both have a fast metabolism. I think I've had Louisa as high as like 550 carbs on one day on a reload. It's crazy. But and it's just, what happens is you never really go into a peak week thinking it's going to be this many carbs. You just have people check in multiple times that week. So I'll have someone check in 3 times a week, 4 times a week, maybe during a peak week. And I have like what I think is going to happen with their carbs and what I'm expecting to happen with their carbs. And the other factors that really go into it too is at the point of them doing a show, you should kind of know where their metabolism's at. You should know how sensitive they are to carbs. So for example, if someone hasn't had any carbs their whole prep and they're just a little bit soft and maybe they didn't nail their prep yet, they're just like inches away, well, that person isn't going to be getting these really aggressive carb protocols because they weren't fully leaned out and they haven't had any carbs anyway, so they're going to be really sensitive to those carbs. So them reloading probably won't take as many. Now, if you have someone who's been eating a ton of carbs the whole time, then they might not even be that flat at all, so they might not need carbs, but then also they might digest so quick that they need a bunch. So it's like, it's really hard to say. So for example, the both examples that I had, with Jacqueline, luckily we've only done 2 shows together, so we got 2 pro cards in a show. One pro card in 2 shows. But the first show was kind of a nightmare. I didn't expect for her what was going to happen. She still did good, but not as good as she could have done. She could have won the show. So I'm really happy she did like a local show first. We just like jumped into it the last minute. But we gave her peak week. She was looking pretty good. And then like show day came, and then she was looking really hard, like way harder than I thought she was going to look. And then we fed her more, and I was like, hey, have another 100 grams of fat, like a ton of fat, 100 grams of fat. It's crazy, right? And then all of a sudden she got harder, and I was like, what is going on? You're harder than like 10% hard, like not 10%, but like noticeably harder after that. And I was like, that shouldn't have happened, right? So that ended up being kind of like a really good learning lesson for us, but her physique could have looked so much better. And so that was with a lot of carbs, with everything. So the last week before her last show, we just gave her so much food before the show. Like I felt bad for her. I think we calculated like the last 4 days of just nut butter, and she had it was either 72 or 76 tablespoons of nut butter. It's insane how much we had to give her food wise. And then we gave her it was like 300 carbs a day on top of that. And then it was just pure craziness. And then with Louisa, I think it's going to be in the vlog too. I think she had 10 tablespoons of like oils with 12 tablespoons of nut butters the day before the show. Mm-hmm. And then 550 carbs, I think, at least once that week. It was just like crazy amount of carbs. Like she had probably close to 2,000 carbs on a reload, and probably close to probably like 400 grams of fat in the last like 4 or 5 days. Like it's just nuts, So like these scenarios, you can't really come up with a peak week with someone. You just have to do what's right for that particular person. And one of the things that I felt, my strongest qualities as a coach myself, like one of my strongest qualities as a trainer, has been my ability to not get stuck to any ideology of what should work. That's very important. That took me a long time to get stuck to that, like to get out of that. Because I used to be like real into like the science of it, and I still am, obviously. But I realized a while back that the guys that are winning all these shows they're not the best scientists. They're not. It's like you get like meatheads winning shows all the time. And I'm like, how come these guys keep winning and they know nothing about this like science stuff? The guys that know all about the science stuff aren't winning ever, And so I was like, okay, there's somewhere in between we got to figure out. You got to like give up you have to at a certain point like give up your control of things and like only this works because it was proven in a study type of thing. And you eventually got to like, as you evolve as a coach, you got to like give that up and say, okay, I'm open to whatever works, right? And then once you get open to whatever works, then you start letting go of like, oh, you shouldn't do this, or you shouldn't do this because this doesn't make sense. Or, on a research paper, this showed that this would go the other way, so you really shouldn't do it. You're like, hey, sometimes you just do what works, And so that's enabled me to like go crazy and do these crazy, hey, have 100 grams of fat, like have 10 tablespoons of oil. Like it's because these stuff, it doesn't make sense to do that. Like no one should do that. On paper, that's not a thing. And so, but hey, I got 2 pro cards doing crazy stuff the last 3 weeks, So it's like the better I've gotten at letting go of the reins and just being like, just trusting my instinct has been a lot better. Like I've gotten much better. But before I was kind of held down by science. So I was stuck in a box,
Mm-hmm.
I was stuck in a box, stuck in this science box. And when I like got out of that box, it really started happening faster. more risk, right? But I just like trusting your instinct, I think, is huge. So you got to know someone's body for carbs, carb loading, and it might take more than one show. And these people who like want to nail it their first time, and then they need to understand it's going to take time for your coach. It's going to take time for you. Like you're going to learn your body. You're going to have to take some risk. You're going to have to go too far sometimes, and then too soft other times, and too hard another time. And like you have to really find it, you know. And I think that it's really cool. Is like the coaches lately too have been kind of talking about them doing that. Like I think that's been more of an open thing. I think before all the coaches were like, I'm perfect, I do it this way, and I do that, like they only show that. But lately there's been a lot of coaches talking about how they like, hey, I mess up all the time too, you know? So it's been cool to see like, hey, we went too far, hey, we whatever, you know, it's been out there. So it's like, okay, even the top guys do that. So just take your time learning your body, take pictures, see how you document yourself, like when you have a certain amount of carbs. I mean, Ashley is pretty easy at this point. We're like, okay, how many are we gonna do? We're gonna do like 35 for like 3 days, like 20 for 3 days. Like how hard are you? And that's basically
That's per meal, not total.
Yeah, per meal. Yeah, it's like 35 by 5 by 6. It's like it's yeah. And the next question I think is for you, Ashley.
And then for Ashley, I'm curious to know, when you pray to the glute gods on leg day, do you do it before or after you lift? Because this has to be, I'm sure this is a really important piece to growing the glutes. So I'm just curious.
Indeed it is. Indeed it is. I will say for me, the method I found that works the best is actually supersetting praying to the glute gods in between my workout sets, you know? So maybe I'll do like a leg press, hit a good hard set of that, you know, 12 to 15 reps. And instead of using that time as rest, I drop to my knees, pray to the glute gods that I get a nice bubbly set of glutes and good tie-ins, you know? So I'll do that
So
periodically. And the closer I get to a show, I actually do it more often. So in fact, today when I was training with Sam, we did 6 working sets, but also in between we added in praying to the glute gods. We both did it. So expect my glutes to be popping on stage this weekend.
I'm gonna leave that question there.
Yes, very. It's
people have really turned this praying to the glute gods thing. It's so funny that
it's the only way.
I've gotten tagged in so many people praying to glute gods pictures. What's funny is that LV Fit Club has a sign that says "Pray for these gains." It's like a neon sign.
We took a picture with.
Oh, did we? Yeah, that's
we
funny.
did. Yes, we did.
Oh wait, I think it would be your turn now.
Yes, it is my turn. So let's see what's next.
Hi, Coach Adam. My name is Darshan Oyston, and I have 2 questions for you today. The first question is, if a person has an imbalance in one of their muscle groups, let's say their biceps, one of their biceps is smaller than the other, can you correct that by doing heavier weight with the arm that has the smaller bicep or more reps with that arm? Or is correcting that imbalance even a possibility? My second question is, in regard to a lower body movement on the ascending drive up of the exercise, is it really necessary to squeeze your butt like a raisin? I know that you should be squeezing on the way down and the way up, but that real squeeze at the top of the movement, is that truly necessary? Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Like a raisin. Like a raisin. I like that analogy because I know exactly what she's talking about. That very unattractive finishing.
The thrust forward.
Yeah. So the first question she had about muscle imbalances, unilateral movements. Yay! That's single arm or single leg exercises. Yeah,
that's actually the right answer for it too. So you'll see a lot of people who do that, and they take I mean, intuitively, the approach that they're thinking that would work, I guess I can't really argue it that it wouldn't have some benefit. And the approach that most people think is that, like, you know, I'll lift an extra set. I'll do extra.
Oh, on that one weak side.
I'll do, you know, an extra couple reps.
Right.
I mean, I don't think you can prove or disprove that. Unfortunately, it'd be kind of hard. But I don't think that's the best method. I think that the problem that most people have is, you know, you're right-handed or left-handed, so you're naturally just use this hand more, so you're naturally a little stronger, and maybe you have a ½ inch bigger bicep or whatever, you know. I think that the right thing is just to take time with it and do unilateral movements, like you said. So instead of doing a let's say you have one leg that's bigger than the other. So instead of doing a leg press that is on a platform or whatever, like they have those individual, unilateral leg presses. You could do that. Something, for example, you could do lunges with your, your back foot on a bench or something, and really putting
Bulgarian split squat.
Yeah, and do those really isolated to those legs. You could do single leg extensions, things like that. So I think that's going to be a better method. Using hammer strength equipment that has, it's weighted each one better is going to be a better method over the long term. And then it's just going to take time from that. It's really rare where you get someone who's working their way in, 3 years, 4 years in weightlifting, where they have a noticeable imbalance. Like if it is, you're never going to be perfectly balanced. And we use a scanner in here, a 3D scanner, and no one's ever, like even the best people that I've scanned, like I've scanned, I don't know, 5 Mr. and Miss Olympias or so in here. Yeah, quite a few. And we're talking perfect people, and even them, they have like, a quarter of an inch here, quarter of an inch there, but it's not noticeable on stage. So as you get better and better with it, their imbalances become less and less the more experienced you become. So I don't think that that's a major concern. And I think it's just, really concentrate on using both muscles the same.
Yes.
Do unilateral movements whenever possible, and then just give yourself time. Yeah, I think that's...
So the lagging part would then eventually catch up eventually.
Yeah.
Another thing you could do is, from what I understand, you can start with the weaker leg first, so it gets a little more of your, or I say leg, it could be any body part. The weaker body part first, so it gets a little more of your energy and attention, whereas the other one can get a little fatigued just because of your body in general is getting a little tired. So
that would make sense. Like if you're doing a leg extension set,
start with the weak leg. Yeah.
Do like 1 to 2 reps with the left leg, let's say, and then do both. Finish off with both. And
that's not exactly what I was saying. I was just saying if it's a unilateral movement, to start with the weaker side.
Oh, because you're going to use more energy.
Because it gets fresh energy rather than already been worked.
That makes sense.
But I don't know about what you just said, but maybe that works too.
Yeah, no, that would actually make a little bit more sense than any of the other approaches we talked about. I guess we just came up with a method, but that would make sense because you're getting double the load for 2 reps on a muscle group, right? 1 or 2 reps. So like if you're doing leg extensions with both legs using 100 pounds, but you start off by doing 1 or 2 reps with just the left leg at 100 pounds, and then you carry through, I guess increasing the load, that would actually probably have some argument that it would work too. I'm just...
It wouldn't hurt,
Yeah, I think that you'd be okay with that, and that might actually make sense to catch up quickly. Yeah, that's the thing. What was the other question? I forgot.
Booty raisins.
Oh, the squeeze forward.
Booty
the
raisins.
Squeeze. This one's more of like a diagram type of question to answer, which is, I could do it really good on video.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to translate via
okay, so here's the thing. Like, let's say we're doing a squat, because people do this on squats a lot. This would be a good example for squats. Gosh, this is going to be hard without the video.
You can demonstrate for us here.
Yeah, well, I can explain visually, because since 3/4 of the people listen to it, just listen to it.
Yeah.
So, okay, so you have to look at exercise, and you have to look at anatomy, and that's how you approach like exercise, right? So if you look at like how the muscle fibers line up on someone, that's going to tell you a lot about how to do an exercise and what makes sense. So anytime you have a question about these things, and if you're asking yourself something, like think of, okay, does the muscle fiber line up in the way where this would be beneficial? And I'll explain that in a second. So let's say, for example, let's look at the glutes, right? The glutes, when you're standing upright, the glute muscle fibers are, for the most part, not all of them, but for the most part, are horizontal, right? They're very much, so if the muscle fibers are horizontal and you're standing up and the weight is vertical, so if weight can only go, like if you have like a pound of weight and it's like not attached to a machine, the weight can only go up and down. It can only elicit force in a vertical manner, right? So drops straight down, right? It's gravity. So it can't create weight going forward or going backward. It's just straight up and down, and that's it. Well, the muscle fiber for the glutes is lined up horizontally. So can you basically work a muscle fiber that has weight going vertically, dropping but the muscle fiber itself is horizontal, and it doesn't work that way. You can't work that muscle fiber to a large capacity, a tiny bit maybe, but as the glutes go, as you do a squat, your glutes kind of change their muscle fiber position, and the muscle fiber position as you're bending down becomes more upward with the weight, And only in that position where it becomes close to vertical will you actually get the optimal contraction. So when you get back to the top of the range and your glutes are again horizontal and the weight is still vertical and you're squeezing forward, you're really not doing anything to the glutes. You're doing something to the muscles that line up vertically, but not the glutes. So the quads would get something, the hamstrings would get something, the lower back would get something, anything that's lined up vertically. But then the next question becomes, okay, is there any tension on my muscles when my joints are locked out when I'm doing that movement? And whenever the skeletal system can take over for the muscular system, it's going to, because it's easier to hold a weight with your joints locked out than it is for your muscles to be squeezing tension to lift them, right? So whenever you lock out your joint, then the weight's going to basically come off the muscle to a large capacity, and it's going to lower the impact it has on the actual muscle, and is only going to go through the joints to stabilize. So it's a lot easier to hold it that way. So like if you think about, if you're holding a dumbbell like over your head, if you were to hold it like a shoulder press position, like out here, you wouldn't be able to hold it very long. But if you held it directly above your head and then the joint carries the weight through, well, because the joint's carrying the weight through, you can hold it here all day long, right, directly above your head. So the same thing is with the squat. You know, if your joints are locked out and you're trying to, you know, put tension on a muscle, but the joints are going to take over the action. You can hold a weight on your back all day long, locked out joints. If you're in that bottom squatting position where there's actually tension on the muscle, well, then you can't hold the weight there very long at all. And so that tells you right there a little bit, you know, what it's actually doing. You're not really doing much in a squat when it's that way. Now, how can you change that? Well, you could put a band around your hips. You can use a machine that actually elicits force in other directions besides vertically. So if you put a band around your waist and you kind of thrusted your hips forward when the band was around your waist, you kind of add that to it, well then yes, that would make sense. Then
With somebody holding it.
with somebody holding it, yeah, we've done that a lot with Ashley, where I hold a band and she's doing like a squat and I'm like holding it, and that way she has tension going that way. And so that's another way of doing it. So hopefully that answers your question. These questions are really, I don't know if they really correlate on, someone could listen to them.
But
and
in
understand
summary, no to booty raisins.
No to booty raisins
No booty raisins.
in any machine that doesn't elicit force, be like in the same manner as the glutes are lined up. So
When are booty raisins okay then?
so
What exercises are good
you would
for
have
booty
to have
raisins?
weight coming from like think about a hip thrust, right? Or
booty raisins on hip
because
thrust, yes.
you switch your glutes to being lined up vertically in that position, right? Because now your body's horizontal, so your glutes are vertical. And so the weight can still only elicit force vertically, right? When it's in a dumbbell form or free form. So then in that scenario, it makes a lot of sense. You squeeze it up because there's weight on it the whole way through, right? Am I losing?
No, I'm just thinking of booty raisins.
So that would make
I was just thinking, what came to mind was, those California raisins from like the 80s.
Yes, I love those guys.
Like, what if there was a knockoff band, the booty raisins? I'm sorry. Okay.
So anytime there's force on your, that there's tension, you could do it, right? So I don't know of too many machines off the top of my head which would naturally do that in their range. I don't know any that you can change the direction of where it would make a lot of sense. And if it would probably be a low amount. So I would say no. And honestly, I don't think it's really a smart idea joint-wise to really
You're like hyperextending.
Hyperextend your joints with your lower back, especially with load on your joints. I don't ever think that's a good idea. So I'd rather you just do your normal range of motion, which would probably be better because you could probably keep tension on the muscle the whole time through if you don't lock out the joint anyway. And then it's safer, and then you just do things like vertical, like booty raises, or add a band to your hips and have someone do it that way. I don't think at any other time it really makes that much sense.
Hyperextensions, booty raisins. Yay or nay? You're kind of, the top to squeeze it.
You're at a 45-degree position, right? So there's going to be more tension there because you're more aligned with it. So yeah, that would probably make more sense because it's still not horizontal, but you're halfway there. So it's going to be probably arguably a large percentage better. Arguably, I guess if you're halfway there, half the percentage better, right? 50% better.
I just want to say thank you to this girl that put booty raisins in my mind. I'm going to forever use that.
Booty raisins.
imbalances. Oh, I just need to start using that term. It's great. Because you know exactly what it is, but it's so funny. It's so funny. All right, enough about the booty race.
Booty, okay. Ashley's having a moment. Well, let's go ahead and go into this one. Let's see.
Besides maintaining proper form when you lift, what are some ways that you can keep your joints healthy, especially during contest prep?
Okay.
Oh, nice quick one. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know of any time where joints would become less healthy during contest prep. The only time I guess would be thinking would be if you're doing a lot of running would be the only time that would make sense during prep. But joint-wise, you shouldn't be less healthy when you're doing prep than when you should be anything. So just to throw that out there on the back end of that question. But I think really it just comes down to not ego lifting in the gym and just using good form. And bodybuilding itself is I would say the safest form of exercise because it's slow, it's continuous movements without crazy loads with a lot of time under tension and squeezing the muscle, you know? Like you look at like CrossFit and the risk for injuries, like 72% of people get injured in CrossFit, which is crazy. You look at powerlifting, I don't know what the percentage of that is, but these are high risk explosive movements for performance and the risk is really, really high. It's not about time under tension and isolating a muscle as much as possible. With bodybuilding, like if you have a bodybuilder who lifts right, their joint health is usually not an issue. The bodybuilders who have issues is when they're doing like heavy chest and heavy shoulder presses and they're not doing movements that you really shouldn't do that much of. So like if you're doing really, really heavy shoulder presses all the time, that's a high risk exercise. If you're doing heavy bench press all the time, that's a high risk exercise. I would eliminate if you're having any issues, I would eliminate a lot of barbell work. Just go into like dumbbell work, machine work, cable work. If you're having a lot of joint issues, I would just go cable and dumbbell work. Honestly, it's like because it's your body's natural form, your body's natural range of motion you can take through that. So I would do that. But really, if you're eating right and you're not lifting crazy, you should have joint health shouldn't be an issue. It really shouldn't.
Especially in bikini. I mean, I know you're referencing bodybuilding, but even less so for bikini because we're not throwing around the heavy weights. So it should be even easier for us.
Yeah.
Unless it's an overuse thing, like you said, with running or something, which could be possible.
Cardio would be the only time I'd see it really come in.
Anytime you're kind of like, I guess, putting weight on it, like running, you're putting all your weight on it, whereas maybe you could switch to an elliptical where it might be a little bit easier on your joints if that is an issue.
Yeah,
I haven't had any joint issues, knock on wood.
It's a 5 times impact.
Yeah.
So if you're running and hit your joint, it's a 5 times impact.
Yeah.
So your weight's 100 pounds, then it's like 500 pounds on your joint when you hit that impact at full stride. Yeah. That's what the estimated is. So it can accumulate for sure. But so in that scenario, use the stairs. Do stairs.
Step mill is freaking amazing.
Low impact because you're reaching up, so the impact is super low because you're like pushing up, so the impact is really low. So
yeah, absolutely. Okay, let's move on to the next question.
One of my questions that I have for you guys would be, what exercises and stretches would you recommend for flexibility and mobility for posing for bikini to help open up the hips or improve posing in that sense? And then for natural athletes like myself, what supplements would you recommend taking that are actually beneficial? Things like creatine, glutamine, things that actually have some science behind them that are helpful in terms of getting to your goals in terms of the physique world. Thanks, guys.
Oh, you're welcome. So her first question about like what stretches should bikini competitors do? I think we actually did a video on that a while ago back in Colorado, remember?
Yeah, I have it on my IGTV, I think.
Yeah, so a lot of people don't realize like in order to kind of like pop your hips out, you got to have a little bit of flexibility in your hips, right? You can tell the girls that don't, they look very stiff, right? I mean, for me, I think I don't necessarily have super flexible hips all around, but for some reason, like the side to side hip is pretty flexible. Whereas if I were to get into like a frog position, I'm not really as flexible, if that makes sense. But I would say like an IT band type of stretch could be beneficial. And also like a hurdler stretch could be beneficial, only if you do it with, this is another thing that's a lot easier to show with video, but there's 2 types of hurdle stretch where your foot is behind you, and then there's one where you're basically the arch of your foot hits your knee. So the one with the arch of your foot hitting your knee, and then like kind of laying on your straightened leg would be beneficial, I would assume, because it hits that side hip a lot. What do you think?
No, I think you're right. That foam rolling, really just paying attention. And the thing is, it's very case by case too. So any muscles you feel are tight and you feel like you're stretched, like the stretch is getting those muscles in the lower back, in the hips, you probably should be doing them. That's usually how it is. If your muscles aren't, like, you're not feeling the stretch, well, then you're probably not tight there, right? It's kind of like a person by person thing.
Right.
So, like, you know, if you're perfectly fine on your chest and you do a chest stretch, like, you'll feel a little bit, but it's not like it's like, oh, this is really painful. Like, if you're feeling that in your hips, yeah, you probably could be a lot better in your posing, in your lower back. So that's kind of like a rule of thumb there too.
Oh, it's so you think it's a little bit of a lower back flexibility as well?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
that would make sense for the back pose.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was thinking the front pose. Which, by the way, the pigeon stretch is also a really good one for flexibility for bikini competitors too.
And one of the things that you can talk to like a specialist about it too, and like he can find out what muscles you have that are tight. And you know what I'll do is I'll give a shout out to my friend here. He's going to blow up. He's going to be pissed. He'll actually be happy. There's this guy, and you know, David. Mm-hmm. So there's a guy named David Berman, and he's a good buddy of mine. He's worked with our athletes for years, like my athletes for probably a decade, this guy. And he could do it through FaceTime. And basically he's a physical therapist, but he specializes in physical therapy for bodybuilding. And you could do a FaceTime with him and be like, hey, this is what's going on. This is how tight I am. My shoulder's been hurting, whatever. And then he can kind of take you through it that way. And he also has an office in Denver. And I imagine he'll come down to the prep center here in Vegas. I mean, whenever he wants, he can come down here. So, but his number is 303-564-5478. Tell him you listen to this and that, you know, he'll know exactly what you need from there. And then you can just do
Instagram too.
Oh yeah, what is his Instagram?
So that they can see what he's all about.
Yeah, I don't know if
he's on Instagram.
He's not a big social media. I just don't know if I could find it under his.
I think it's Fit and Physio or something. Or...
Yeah, because I know it's a name. Physio something. You're right. Well, oh, here it is. FNF Physio.
Ah, so spell that for us.
F as in Frank, Nancy, Frank. So FNF Physio, PHYSIO. So, and he's he's a cool dude. You know, he really just does a ton of our athletes. So anyway, anytime someone comes in, even if they're on a different team, whatever, they come in, they see our guys, and he takes care of them. And he worked with you a lot too. Mm-hmm. He helped Anya a lot too with her back pose. So some things you might need a physical therapist with, and it's not really a me. It goes past me when it goes into that really technical stuff, and there's specialists for it all.
Absolutely, and I think the great thing about him is he's familiar with the sport, right? Because it's so hard to kind of explain to the mainstream people, right? Like, oh, I'm trying to hit my back pose, and this isn't working. You know, they're gonna look at you like, huh, what?
Yeah.
What is that? So it's good that he's very familiar with the sport, and he works with our athletes, so he knows. He won't look at you crazy. He knows what you're talking about. So that would be very, very helpful. Yeah,
he'd come in and he'd be like, all right, what's your problems, Adam? And I'd be like, this is the issue with her. And I'd like show him a picture, posing, whatever. And then he'd be like, all right, I'll fix it. And like he'd spend an hour with him and they'd come back, everything's good. I was like, dude, he's a miracle worker. It's crazy. Yes. So what was the other question?
The other question would be, what supplements are beneficial for bikini competitors? Is it creatine? Is it glutamine? Is it leucine? I know you love leucine, but you have like a little list of ones you kind of swear by, I guess, or you find to be useful. Yeah. And if you want to go ahead and go into that little list.
The main thing is with like with supplements is it is what it sounds like. It's supplements. You're supplementing your food, right? So a lot of our food doesn't have nutrients the way that we want to have in the food. Like the soils are overcropped. They don't have the nutrients that we want to have the nutrients. So if you look at like a vegetable now versus a vegetable like 70 years ago, it'd be a totally different nutrient profile of how many vitamins and minerals are in there because it's just overcropped. So the nutrients that aren't in the soil the way it was. So that being the case, you need to take a multivitamin. Okay, that's super critical. What's funny is that this is the thing that gets me with supplements. And this happens with me. You know, I started working in a supplement store. Mm-hmm. So, which is crazy. I started at 16 years old working in a supplement store. And so I've been through this mostly my whole life now, which is kind of crazy to think about, to be honest. But the supplement store, people would come in and they'd always ask, all these guys would always come in and they'd ask me, like, what do I need to get muscles? What do I need to get bigger? What do I need to get this? And then you'd ask them, okay, are you taking a multivitamin? Are you taking anything for your gut health? Because we don't have healthy bacteria in our food, in our Western society, and our foods are terrible, right? So like if you look at like India, and they have a lot of cultured foods, like they have healthier guts over there because they have cultured foods with a lot of healthy bacteria in their foods that we don't replace with our foods. Are you looking at your pH balance at all? Are you having enough, leucine in your diet, amino acids in your diet? Leucine is the most likely amino acid to build skeletal muscle. Your body absolutely needs that.
And
so
it's the cheapest.
Yeah, and it's cheap, and you can get it. I mean, it's in eggs, it's in most foods, but it's supplementing with that and having extra amount of that is great. It's in BCAAs too. I always kind of spike my BCAAs with more leucine. There's been some arguments that doesn't matter, some arguments that it does, but at least an amino acid would be good because to get those quality amino acids that you need to help synthesize protein. And so I'd ask them all these questions. Are you getting in, how many fats are you getting in? Are you getting in quality, fish oils and EPA, DHAs, like that type of stuff? And they'd always be like, no, I just want to know, like, what do I need to take, like creatine? Do I need to take like androstenedione or whatever, like these things? And I'm like, no, if you're not paying attention to the first things, why would your body go and build muscle for you if it's struggling to even be healthy on the inside first? Like you're not even digesting protein and your nutrients the right way because your gut health is terrible because you drink every weekend, you don't eat anything but steak, and you haven't had a multivitamin or a probiotic or digestive enzyme in 4 years, and you don't eat yogurt or anything. So like, why do you think that your body is going to just work for you? Like, why do you think pH is off, you're not hydrated, you don't have the proper nutrients in your body, you're lagging in whatever, vitamin deficiencies, you're not getting the right amino acids, you don't have, a healthy fats coming into your diet, and then why do you think creatine is going to do anything for you?
Right.
You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. You need to be set up for success. This is what we're asking of our bodies is not normal. You're not supposed to be lean and muscular at the same time. Because if you're lean, that means you're at risk for dying because you have no energy stores, right? Oh, no. So the way that your body thinks of this is it's like, hey, I don't have enough energy to sustain life for a long period, so I'm going to like make it harder for you to lose fat at a certain point. That's where you hear about this thing called essential fat. If you see on the body fat chart, there's a thing called essential fat, and everyone's like, what's essential fat? Well, there's a certain point of body fat you just can't get past. Like, it's called essential fat. That's where you have your body has to have some. So for guys, I think it's like 3% is like essential fat. Like, you won't get leaner than that. It doesn't matter what you try. For girls, I think it's like 6 or 8. It's on the chart. I'm just forgetting off the top of the chart right now, top of my head. There's just so much information out there. I always forget some. But essential fat. So like you need some, right? So when you're not, just remember, you're not supposed to be really lean because that means it's going to be harder to sustain life and your body's going to fight you with that. Because at a certain point, especially as you get closer to that essential fat level, it's going to get harder and harder because the body is saying, I need some energy just in case you stop eating, Yeah. And then the other thing is you have a lot of muscle, which burns calories. So you're putting yourself in this state of burning more calories with less energy reserves, and your body's going to fight you on that. So you need to take every path, cross every T, dot every I to make sure that your body will do this for you. And it's all in the setup. So are you taking a quality digestive enzyme? Are you taking probiotics? Are you taking a fish oil, a multivitamin, amino acids? There's some debate on the fish oils. I understand that. And those are like the main things right there that I would say are like the main things that people are missing. And then we worry about additives like, creatines and stuff. And yeah, there is a benefit for creatine. I mean, it's not a huge benefit. You are taking, over-the-counter supplements. They're pretty decent. They're not going to be like miracle workers. There's nothing that's going to be a miracle worker. But if you first have to worry about your setup, no matter what you take, whether you're a natural athlete or an enhanced athlete, if you don't have your setup, don't expect a lot out of whatever else you're taking. I think that would be the most important take from that. Mm-hmm. So we have them on our website, all the supplements that I recommend for our athletes. I like those because I get the quality testing report, and that's the problem is you get a lot of fake supplements out there. Like you'll get Chinese import supplements and they just like market for 6 months and then they go out of business because they didn't have what it said it did in it, and they get a new brand. They market for 6 months, a year, they get caught, and the supplement industry is not a regulated industry, so it is hard to find the right stuff. So I like getting, and that's why I have certain products like on my site, is just because I want to get the reports. I want to see the testing reports. And if I see those, then I'm like, okay, we're good. I know these are good. So I've just seen it happen too many times where it didn't have in it what it said it had over the years because I've done this for so long. So, but yeah, that's the main things I think for supplements. Set up first, additives later.
That's a good answer.
Yeah. So I think with that, yeah.
I have more if you want.
Well, we're past our hour already.
Oh, I thought we
we're
were
at an hour and 10.
Okay.
I think that's pretty good. We can save some for later.
You might be able to do a part 2 for the next one.
Save some for the next one.
Yes.
But I guess with that, we'll say thank you very much for listening. Hopefully, maybe if any of you have listened to all 100 episodes, like seriously, thank you.
Thank you. When we were filming on potatoes, thank you.
We used to film like from our phone sometimes. Like it was like there was
yeah.
Do you remember? Actually, what's funny is like because I was learning how to use this stuff, I would plug the mic into my phone. Well, I found out that the mic wasn't working because the phone wasn't strong enough to turn the mic on.
Oh.
The phone didn't have enough battery in it to like actually make the mic work. So it was never on. That whole sound was from like one of them. That was like Phoebe was in the room at the Olympia. It was just my phone.
It's come such a long way. It sucks too because I know even though they were like poor quality, we had some good things to say. So
yeah,
we'll revisit that eventually, I'm sure. But stay tuned next week because would you like to do part 2 of this?
We can do a part 2 of this. Why not?
Yeah, I think because we're getting more videos and everything too, so might as well make a part 2. So if you didn't hear it this week, maybe you will next week.
Yeah. And then anything you want to say since you're well, I don't know when this episode will drop. Next week, is that how it works? Yeah, next week. So that means that Ashley would have just competed in Texas and Tahoe. So hopefully, future Ashley, everything went the way you hoped it did.
Let's hope so. Future Ashley hopes so.
Future Ashley, we hope you did good.
Yes.
I think that's been part of this too. What's been cool is that people got to see your journey behind the scenes, a little bit of like your preps and whatnot, and how many shows you're doing, and your tenacity, which has been I think really helpful for a lot of people. I think the one thing that's been really helpful too, that we should talk about a tiny bit, is just that you've been able to live lean, and you're setting an example to a lot of people. Hey, live lean, have a more consistent showing because you're living lean, and that's like I think that's really starting to become more of a trend. And I definitely think that you're the trendsetter in that for staying lean in the off season and like not, and just living lean, living like a professional athlete competitor, not blowing up in the off season and stuff too. So
it's really not bad, guys. I actually think it's much easier just to kind of maintain rather than fluctuate and prep all over again. That's me though.
But along with that, people have been able to watch. I don't think people realize it, and like I try to like put myself back in the situation too, because I don't realize it because we just see each other every day. And but when you're competing, like you're legitimately watching history and records being broken, like on a possibly every time she competes, which is it's been really fun to watch, and that's why I definitely don't want to miss the Tahoe and the Texas show, because Ashley is one away from tying the all-time record of pro wins. Dexter Jackson. You passed Ronnie Coleman, which is crazy to say. It's nuts.
Yes.
It's just so crazy to even
Although
say that.
I
out
will
loud.
say,
you always say
it's
this.
apples and oranges, but you can brag for me, Adam. I don't care. You go ahead, brag for me.
The only reason I don't give that as much credit, there's no way that bodybuilders is not harding. That bodybuilding isn't harder. That we know that for sure. Bodybuilding's harder. But bodybuilders used to compete just as much as you're competing. Like it's just a new thing. That's in the last 10 years is when bodybuilders stopped competing as frequently as you. I talked to Chris Cormier, and he did 10 shows one year.
Dang.
Yeah, you're not even at 10 shows yet.
I can only imagine. I'll be 10 shows by the time this podcast releases, though.
Yeah, exactly.
I will be.
But you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like it's not like they didn't have the same opportunities, So it's like,
strange.
He competed 10 times. It was crazy. I talked to him. I was like, man, I didn't even know you did that much. He's like, yeah. It was
it's possible.
He's like, that's how we made our money. He was like, we're professional athletes. How you get paid. I was like, that makes sense. So, so the opportunities are there. Harder, yes, but the opportunities. So, whether you get it this weekend coming up or you get it 10 years from now, or maybe you never get it, either way, you're still set. You're the all-time most winning women of all time. You were the all-time most winning bikini pro, and then now you're the all-time most winning woman, and you're the second most all-time winning, and maybe eventually the first. So that's kind of crazy.
Maybe we'll see one day.
Hopefully. So anyway, guys, pay attention to that because it's pretty cool to watch. It's pretty cool to watch because you're going to say, hey, I saw it happen. Like I was watching her journey and watching it and how hard it was and the ups and downs with it. And you've been really tough and tenacious. So.
Yeah, gotta just go for it, you know?
Yeah. So anyway, talk to you guys next time. Thank you so much for the last 100 episodes.
Woo, 100!
Here's to 100 more.